We're at the Straight Up Racing Shop here. We got Major Payne right behind Bill Payne. Share us your thoughts on the tank, Bill.
Well, it's Sunday now. It was a little over a year in decision making, the changing of the minds, and we finally came up with a plan and committed to it. We finally did the first test run. It was a success, I think. I mean, it was definitely a blast to drive. As soon as I got done with the first pass, I then told the wife, well, there's no need to take Rockstar to shows anymore because I found my new adrenaline. It started out as just a simple motor swap. I mean, it used to have the S10 body on it that just had a 435 horse big block in the back, and it was fun then. It was almost like driving a boat around. The way it would turn and the way it would rock up on the tracks. But of course, it was a stiff ride. When we put the bigger motor in it, it was just a goofing off thing. We had a California kid body sitting around, and we just had this idea one day in the shop, oh, let's just take the body off of the tank because it had some front end damage on it from going through one of the motor homes, so we were going to have to fix that anyway. So when we took the body off and we set the kid body on it, it looked awesome. The issue is the tank was way longer than what the kid body was. So either we're going to have to extend the nose, a foot and a half, or we're going to have to cut a hole in the back of the body to have half the motor sticking out the back of the body. And I just didn't want that look. I didn't want an incomplete, afterthought, scab together kind of look of a truck. So that was where we just, again, we're goofing off and we just turned the body around just for the heck of it. And it actually fit really good. It was the way that it was positioned, the motor was going to be just about right where a hood would normally be. So we kind of went with that a little bit. We left it there. We went and did a couple of shows, and then when we got home, I still loved the way it looked, but we had a lot of other areas that we were going to have to tackle. It was one, it's either I'm going to have to just drive this thing around in reverse, and reverse is nowhere near strong enough to support the abuse that it would be going through. So we were going to have to either build a reverser box or put like a crane transfer case in it that has multiple gears, forward and reverse, but that was all going to be added weight. So it was when we were down in Oregon at the Cottage Grove show. There's a guy named Dave Tucker with DT Machine. I was speaking with him because he builds some transfer cases. I tried calling Profab about building a custom case, and they weren't interested in doing it. And Dave, he liked the idea. We just sketched some things up, but he was really busy. It was going to be 6 months before he could get to it. So it was, I obviously, as you guys know, with Straight Up Racing, we're very impulsive. When we get an idea, when we get a plan or a design in our head, we run with it. We want it done, yesterday. So when we got home from that show, we started cutting out parts on the plasma table. And if anybody sees, that first design that we did on Facebook, it was just multiple sheets of steel that were cut out that would hold the bearings and the gear pockets and the seals. And we actually built a reverser box out of 1/4-inch plates. There was, 11 or 12 sheets all stacked up. But the idea worked. It was a working, functioning reverser box. Whether it would have held, fluid very well, I don't know. But it was actually through Facebook that a neighbor was able to, or somebody he knew posted something or made a comment. I don't even remember how it all got, but we found out that a neighbor a mile down the road has a CNC mill, and he was discussing something about he could make it out of aluminum, and we started having a conversation. We met the guy, we gave him our designs, and in a matter of a week we had the prototype of the aluminum reverser box that we wanted to try to use, and that was where the idea started from. Was once we had that, the idea could move forward. So that was the decision maker on that. This tank was going to be turned around backwards, again, so we weren't going to hurt anybody. We didn't have to jump the tank. We wanted a tank that could go out there and rip wheelies and try to see if we can do slap wheelies and just do something different. And that was the purpose of wanting to turn it around backwards. That way it'll pivot on this back idler and come on that sprocket, and it can wheelie without having to hurt anybody. It's like a fooling the eye. it may be looking like it's wheeling, but really it's just rocking back on the suspension and doing, just a geometry thing, really. From there, it's, it came with well, since we're doing this, we might as well do this. Well, since we're doing this part, let's do this part. So then it was roll cages, it was, bigger air tanks, it was moving the radiators, doing driveline brakes, the changing the air steering, making them a larger can on there. That way, they would hit harder, which now that's something that we're having the issue with, is very sensitive on the steering. So we're trying to figure out with air pressure regulators, or if it's just dumping the air faster. There's going to be a lot to learn with this thing, but again, ultimately it was a success, with the great sponsors that helped us out with some of the parts on there, from Dart, Scat, TCI built a power glide for it. It's before it had an Allison 545 that was a ginormous heavy transmission. There was really going to be no room for the driver's feet. And then with just discussing transmissions, and I mean, if the power glides now can make some of these dragsters go, and hold up to 3,000 horsepower, the monster trucks, what the abuse they're making those things go through in a monster truck nowadays are 12,500 pounds, if not more, on some trucks, and they're holding up to those. The major Payne takeaway is 9,600 pounds, so it's less than a monster truck. So the abilities for the power glide to hold up were just shouting, "Give me a try." TCI built a big shaft for it, which just means it's just larger shafts than a normal power glide. And like I said, I think it's going to be a success all around. We have no issues so far. We're going to gear it down a little bit more, just so hopefully it rips bigger wheelies out of the hole. I think ultimately my goal is I want it to be able to pivot all the way to that back sprocket, and just even if it's just one or two times, I just want to be able to feel that thing go all the way to the back, and just that the satisfaction of another project accomplished that works. There may be changes to come still down the road. We wanted to be able to test it instead of just keep redesigning everything. We left the suspension the way it is. We left the tracks, the idlers, all the everything to do with the tracks is still the same. Whether we change like this idler that I'm leaning against a little bit later, because this thing is designed right now, it's supposed to be down. The problem is when we do our wheelies and rip around, when it drops, it loosens the tracks. So like you see on our first test video, you'll see the tracks are real wavy, they're real soft. I don't know if that helped with how soft the ride was, because the tracks were real gushy, but obviously there's that breaking point. You don't want it too loose to where you can have a track come off. So there was no issues that we found during the test video, but I don't want something where this thing's coming down too much and the track comes off, or we break a track. So we're going to keep an eye on that and see if it ever becomes a problem, or if we see that a problem is starting to occur. So we may have to redesign this area, drop something down and bring this area up and change the suspension. We don't know. I mean, it's until we put some test runs on it and really go out there and have some fun. I'm thankful my neighbors put up with me, because I mean, I literally wanted to burn a barrel of fuel yesterday. It's we did the first test pass and we had a fuel leak. It was one of the fuel lines was leaking. I could feel the spray, so we just brought it straight back in, went through and just checked all the fuel lines, nut bolted it. Just again, I mean, the thing's been a year project, so it's like, let's just go through it one more time and just check everything, check water lines, check fuel lines, and then we did that test pass. And I mean, I couldn't bring myself to want to stop. I mean, I just wanted to keep ripping around and put more fuel in it. But again, if any of my neighbors watch these videos, I thank you for putting up with us. It's we still live in close to neighbors. We've got acreage out here, but we don't have 5,000 acres where we can just do what we want. But it's April 6th and 7th is Roseburg. That's going to be our first live performance with this thing. We'll see, I'm sure I'm going to test it a few more times, in the yard, maybe, take it up the bank in the back, see how she lands, if it feels like, you're going to hit something, or, maybe, bring in a car and try something, or some tires, or, we'll test with a little bit more, and then we'll see what kind of track we want to build in Roseburg for it. It may have, jumps. It may have a side wheelie. It may just be that we're on the asphalt there just doing a spark show with the tracks. There's definitely a lot to be able to experiment with the tank.
And where originally is this from?
This
the tank?
Originally, it was a Sam Sturgis. This was, I believe it was called Daddy's Girl. And it had an S10 on it. It was pink. You can still see a lot of the pink. I mean, whatever they painted that pink paint out of, it's some durable stuff, because I can't get that pink to come off. So it's, as the tracks start ripping and throwing rocks, I mean, it starts chipping off the black, and you still see pink underneath. So it's never going to be able to be hidden what truck this used to be. But Sam Sturgis was the original builder. I can't remember the gentleman's name that owned it. It was like an Eli, or again, I don't know the history of it that much, but from there it went to Craig Christensen, and then Scott Anderson, and then Marvin Anderson, and then it wound up at the SUR shop. So it's we also acquired another tank. Originally the idea was we were going to try to have two tanks that we were going to build to be able to go out there and have almost like a dog fight, where they were have kind of like the Transformers that do the explosions and shoot back. Well, we see if we could do something, a choreograph, shooting bang, 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 and ripping around the tanks. Just instead, Donald with Titan, he was excited, wanted a tank, and it was like, man, all right. So we gave him the other tank that we have. He still hasn't done much with it. He's still got the ideas. Hopefully that since we've accomplished and finished this one, it'll gear him up to start his tank. The twins, the Groth brothers up the road, they have a tank. They have, I don't even know what tank it was, but it's an M4. It's Battle Tracks is the tank that they have. So it's with enough of the good guys that we have around here in the Northwest that have some tanks. It's maybe we'll be able to bring some actual a full line of tanks to some of these shows as well in the Northwest.
Right, and then we will see this first at Roseburg, and then will it be at most of the outdoor shows after that?
So all of the Malicious Monster Truck shows, we're going to take it to. It's just a part of straight up racing. That way we can accomplish more of a full realm of a show. Just so we're not the same as everybody else. We can be a little bit different. We can have the tank. We can do the monster trucks, all the rides. I mean, it's just, I don't want to have the same show, because a lot of these people, when we go to these shows, and we've got fans that have come, I mean, we're like their growth chart with their kids. I mean, we've got pictures with kids, their hips, and then they're up here at our waists, and then they're at our shoulders. I mean, we've done some of these shows, for 9-10 years, and some of these kids are just as tall as I am now. Yeah. So it's, whether they're, tell us stories about past shows, or when we've crashed, or when we won, or some of them, Lorna is their idol, some of the little girls. So it's, I don't want to just have the same show over and over again to these, to these fans. So that's why we changed the trucks up. That's why, Willie Crash was developed, and we dropped California Kid off for a couple years, where we bring in Reverse Racer, or the Beast Mode truck, or Pound Hound, back to, Skeletor. We may go back to Skeletor in a couple of years. We constantly want to bring the fans something that they want to, that they look forward to seeing, that way, they can't wait for that 365 days till they get to see the Malicious Monster Truck Tour again.
Okay. Thanks, Bill.